There is a comforting lie we tell ourselves that when we lock our doors at night, we are safe, that the walls of our homes or the solitude of nature can protect us from the outside world. But what if the danger isn't just outside? What if it's already watching you, waiting for the lights to go out? Tonight, we are venturing into four terrifying true tales of isolation, from the deep, silent forests of the Pacific Northwest to a lonely roadside cottage in the middle of a storm, from a deceptive voice calling from your living room to a stranger following you through the fog. These stories are a reminder that sometimes the feeling of being watched isn't just paranoia. So check your locks, close your curtains, and put on your headphones. Let's begin. I was 19 when this happened. My cousin Maya and I had spent the better part of a year planning the ultimate photography trip. We weren't interested in the tourist traps. We wanted the raw, untouched wilderness. We set our sights on a remote section of the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington state, way off the beaten path. We were chasing the golden hour, that perfect light right before sunset, and eventually the Milky Way. We packed our backpacks with expensive camera gear, lightweight tents, and enough dehydrated food to last 3 days. We parked my beat-up Ford Explorer at a trailhead that was barely more than a patch of dirt and hiked for about 4 hours. The location was breathtaking. A clearing nestled between towering Douglas fir trees with an alpine lake that looked like black glass. But as we were setting up camp, the vibe shifted. Maya was hammering in the tent stakes when she stopped. "Hey," she called out, pointing to a tree branch about 20 feet away. "Check this out." Hanging there was a flannel jacket. It wasn't just old, it was ancient. It was caked in dried mud and stiff from exposure to rain and sun. It looked like it had been fused to the tree for months. My gut instinct was weirdly sharp. I felt a sudden urge to pack up and leave. But logic took over. I figured some hiker had lost it last season. Maya suggested we leave it alone in case the owner came back, which was a terrifying thought in itself considering the state of the jacket. We cooked dinner on our layered little camping stove, instant chili that tasted better than it had any right to. As the sun dipped below the Cascades, the temperature plummeted to the low 30s. That's when we heard it, a howl. It echoed off the mountains, long and mournful. Maya laughed nervously. "Coyotes?" she asked. "I don't think so," I whispered. "I've spent a lot of time outdoors. I know what a wolf sounds like. I know what a coyote sounds like. This this sounded like a man screaming in a lower register, trying to sound like an animal. It was uncanny. It hit that primal part of your brain that says, predator. We tried to ignore it. We sat by the fire for a bit, but the woods felt heavy. You know that feeling when you were being watched? It's like a physical pressure on the back of your neck. Around 10 p.m., we called it a night. Maya fell asleep instantly. She was lucky. I lay there for hours, listening to the wind and the snapping of twigs. At 2:45 a.m., nature called. I tried to hold it, but I couldn't. I grabbed my tactical flashlight, unzipped the tent as quietly as possible, and stepped out into the freezing air. The silence was absolute. No crickets, no wind, just dead silence. I walked about 15 yards from the tent to a large pine tree. I was midstream when I heard a sound that made my blood turn to ice. Crunch. It came from directly above me. My first thought was, cougar. They hunt from trees. I slowly zipped up, my hands shaking violently. I didn't want to look up, but I had to. I raised my flashlight beam slowly up the trunk of the pine tree, 10 feet up. Resting on a thick branch, crouched like a gargoyle, was a man. He was wearing dirty camouflage gear that blended perfectly with the bark. His face was smeared with something black, mud, or grease, but his eyes, the light reflected in his wide, unblinking eyes. He wasn't holding onto the branch for balance. He was perfectly still, staring down at me with an intensity that wasn't human. We locked eyes for 5 seconds. 5 seconds that felt like a lifetime. He didn't speak. He didn't smile. He just watched. Adrenaline dumped into my system. I didn't scream. I bolted. I sprinted back to the tent, tore the zipper open, and shook Maya awake. "We're leaving. Now," I hissed. "What? Why? It's dark," she mumbled. "There is a man in the tree above us. Leave the tent. Grab the keys." The terror in my voice woke her up fully. We left everything, our expensive tent, the sleeping bags, the cooking gear. We grabbed our backpacks and ran. I navigated the trail by memory and adrenaline, expecting a hatchet to bury itself in my back at any moment. We made it to the car in record time, locked the doors, and sped down the mountain road, nearly sliding off a cliff twice. We didn't stop until we reached a diner in a town 50 miles away. 3 months later, I saw the news. A fugitive had been arrested in that same national forest. He had been living off the grid, raiding campsites at night. Police found a stash of trophies in a hollowed-out tree stump, IDs, wallets, and cameras. He confessed to watching campers for days before making his move. He told the officers he liked to sit in the trees because nobody ever looks up. I never went camping again. I was driving back from a conference in Phoenix, Arizona, taking a shortcut through some back roads near the New Mexico border. If you've ever driven through the desert at night, you know how empty it gets. It's just you and the high beams cutting through the black void. Then, the storm hit. It wasn't just rain, it was a deluge. Thunder shook the chassis of my Honda Civic. At mile marker 108, my engine started to sputter. A sickening clunk, clunk, clunk noise. And then silence. The power steering died. I coasted to the shoulder. No cell service. Of course. I squinted through the windshield and saw a faint yellow light about half a mile up the road. My choices were to sit in a metal box during a lightning storm or run for it. I grabbed my jacket and ran. The light belonged to an old, decrepit farmhouse. It looked like something out of a Gothic novel, peeling paint, a sagging porch, and windows that looked like hollow eyes. I banged on the door, shivering from the cold rain. An old man opened it. Mr. Harrow. He was skeletal, with skin like parchment paper. He held a shotgun loosely in one hand, but lowered it when he saw I was just a soaked guy in a suit. "Car trouble?" he rasped. His voice sounded like grinding stones. "Yeah," I replied. "Engine died. Can I use your phone?" "Lines are down," he said, stepping aside. "Storm took him out an hour ago. You can sleep in the spare room upstairs. Daughter's old room. But listen to me." He grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "Don't touch. Nothing." All right. I didn't want to stay, but the alternative was hypothermia. He led me upstairs. The house smelled of mildew and stale lavender. He opened a door at the end of the hall. "This was hers," he whispered. "She's been gone a long time. She gets upset if things are moved." He left me there with a candle as the power was flickering. The room was a time capsule from the 90s. But the centerpiece was a large oil painting on the wall opposite the bed. It was a portrait of a teenage girl with pale skin and dark, sorrowful eyes. The artist had done too good of a job. The eyes, they seemed to follow me. As I changed into dry clothes, I felt judged, watched. I laid down on the dusty bed, but every time lightning flashed, the girl in the painting seemed to shift expressions. First eyed, then angry, then malicious. I couldn't take it. I saw a red bandana hanging on the bedpost. Maybe a keepsake. I grabbed it, walked over to the portrait, and draped it over the painting to cover her face. "Sorry," I whispered. "Just need to sleep." I finally dozed off. I don't know how long I was out, but I woke up to the sound of thunder that shook the floorboards. The candle had gone out. The room was pitch black. Flash! Lightning illuminated the room for a split second. In the corner, by the wardrobe, someone was standing there. My heart hammered against my ribs. I froze. I waited for the next flash. Flash! It was a girl. She was wearing a white nightgown, soaking wet, water dripping onto the floorboards. Her head was tilted at an unnatural angle, like her neck was broken. And over her face was the red bandana, the same bandana I had put on the painting. I didn't think. I didn't scream. Pure animal instinct took over. I grabbed my boots and threw myself out of the room, tumbling down the stairs in the dark. I heard Mr. Harrow shouting from his room, "Did you touch it? Did you touch her things?" I burst out the front door into the storm. I ran that half mile back to my car in the mud, screaming the whole way. I locked myself in my dead car and sat there with a tire iron in my hand until the sun came up. A tow truck found me the next morning. The driver asked why I looked like I'd seen a ghost. I didn't tell him. I just paid him double to get me out of there. I don't know what Mr. Harrow was keeping in that house, but some things are better left alone. My brother Jack was 8, and I was 11. We lived in a typical two-story house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. It was a safe neighborhood, cul-de-sacs, manicured lawns, the whole American dream. Our grandma was staying with us because she was recovering from a bad flu. She was sleeping in the guest room on the first floor. My parents had gone out for a late anniversary dinner, leaving me in charge. Around 9:30 p.m., we were in our room upstairs playing video games when Jack paused the game. "Did you hear that?" he asked. "Hear what?" "Grandma," he said, looking confused. "She's calling us." I took off my headset. Faintly, from the bottom of the stairs, I heard a voice. "Boys, come down here. I have a surprise for you." It was Grandma's voice, but it was off. You know how when you record your voice and play it back, it sounds slightly different? It was like that, too smooth, too melodic. Grandma was sick. Her voice had been raspy all week. This voice sounded strong, cheerful. "She probably ordered pizza," Jack said, unpausing the game. He started to get up. "Wait," I said. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Stay here." I walked to the bedroom door and opened it a crack. The hallway was dark. "Jack, Michael, come downstairs. I made cookies. Just for you." Cookies? She couldn't even stand up without a walker yesterday. Just then, the house phone in my parents' bedroom, which was across the hall, started ringing. It was loud in the quiet house. I ran across the hall and picked it up. "Hello? Michael?" It was my mom. She sounded frantic, breathless. "Is the front door locked?" "Yeah, I think so." "Why?" "Listen to me very carefully," she said. "We are at St. Mary's Hospital. Grandma had a heart attack 20 minutes ago. We've been here with her. We aren't home." The blood drained from my face. I looked at the dark staircase leading down to the first floor. "But," I whispered, my voice trembling, "Grandma is downstairs. She's calling us right now." The line went silent for a second. Then my dad's voice came on the line, stern, terrified. "Michael, grab your brother, lock your bedroom door, and call 911 right now. That is not your grandmother." I dropped the phone. I ran back to our room, grabbed Jack by the shirt, and dragged him inside. "Hey, what are you doing?" he yelled. "Shut up." I slammed the door and locked it. I shoved my heavy wooden dresser in front of the door. "That's not Grandma." Jack looked at me, terrified. Then we heard footsteps on the stairs. Thump, thump, thump. They weren't the shuffle of an old woman. These were the boots of a grown man, heavy, deliberate. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. The doorknob slowly twisted. Creak, it hit the lock. Then the voice came again. But this time, it didn't sound like Grandma anymore. It dropped 2 octaves into a deep, gravelly baritone, a man's voice. "Open the door, boys. I know you're in there." I dialed 911 on my cell phone, tears streaming down my face. Jack was hiding under the bed, sobbing into a pillow. The dispatcher told me officers were 2 minutes out. For those 2 minutes, the man outside didn't try to break the door down. He just scratched at the wood with something sharp. Scritch, scratch. And he kept whispering things that only our family knew. "Don't you want to play Mario Kart? Don't you want to see the new puppy?" Blue and red lights flashed through our window. We heard the front door get kicked in downstairs. "Police! Hands in the air!" We heard running footsteps, the sound of glass breaking at the back of the house, and then silence. The police never caught him. They found a voice recorder in the bushes outside. He had been recording our family for weeks, splicing together words to mimic us. But that night, when he spoke through the door, that wasn't a recording, that was him. I grew up in a small coastal town in Maine. It's beautiful in July, but by October, it's a ghost town. The tourists leave, the shops close up, and the fog rolls in off the Atlantic, thick as clam chowder. I was 17, working the closing shift at Scoops, an ice cream parlor on the boardwalk. It was a Tuesday night, dead silent. My manager left at 9:00 p.m., leaving me to clean up and lock up by myself. At 10:30 p.m., I punched out. The fog was so dense I couldn't see the ocean, just the sound of waves crashing against the pier. I locked the front door and started my walk home. It's about a 15-minute walk through the residential streets. There was only one other person on the boardwalk. A guy standing near the railing. He was wearing a dark hoodie with the hood up and a Red Sox baseball cap pulled low. He was packing up a fishing rod. I walked past him, keeping my head down. "Good night," I mumbled, just to be polite. He didn't answer. I walked about 50 feet past him when I heard it, the slap of shoes on wood. I paused. The footsteps behind me paused. I started walking again. The footsteps resumed, matching my pace perfectly. My heart started to race. I turned right, heading off the boardwalk onto Elm Street. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The guy had left his expensive fishing gear on the boardwalk. He was following me, hands in his pockets, head down. I walked faster. He walked faster. Then he spoke. His voice was calm, too calm. "Hey, Sarah." I froze. I didn't have a name tag on. I had taken it off at work. "You look pretty when you're counting the cash register," he said. He was about 20 feet behind me now. I didn't reply. I started to run. "Why are you running?" he called out, his voice getting louder. "I just want to talk. I noticed your dad's truck isn't in the driveway tonight. He's working the night shift at the docks, right?" Panic exploded in my chest. He knew my name. He knew where I worked. He knew my dad's schedule. This wasn't a random encounter. I sprinted. My lungs burned in the cold, damp air. I could hear his heavy boots hitting the pavement behind me. He wasn't running. He was power walking. Like he knew he didn't need to rush. Like he knew exactly where I was going. I cut through a neighbor's yard, jumped a low fence, and scrambled onto my porch. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking so bad I dropped them twice. I heard him whistling, a slow, cheerful tune. He was turning the corner onto my street. I jammed the key in, threw the door open, slammed it and locked the deadbolt, then the chain. Then I pushed a chair under the knob. I collapsed on the floor, gasping for air. Silence. Then a shadow appeared on the frosted glass of the front door. He was standing right there. Tap, tap, tap. He knocked gently on the glass. "See you tomorrow, Sarah," he whispered. Then he walked away. I called the cops, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. They patrolled the area for weeks, but they never found a guy matching the description. I quit my job the next day. My dad installed motion sensor lights in a security system. But sometimes, when the fog rolls in off the ocean, I still hear that whistling. And I wonder if he's still out there, watching, waiting for me to forget to lock the door. And that brings us to the end of tonight's collection. I have to ask, which of these stories unsettled you the most? Was it the man hiding in the tree, or the mimic standing outside the bedroom door? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you made it this far, and you want to support the channel, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. I'll be back soon with more stories to keep you awake. Until then, stay safe and trust your instincts. Good night.